picking up right where we left off, talking about Dr. Jones's approach to language learning.
Yeah, and I gotta say, his whole emphasis on consistency and, manageable effort, it really resonates with me.
Oh, yeah, he's all about ditching that all or nothing mentality.
Like, you don't have to, become fluent overnight.
Exactly.
Wow.
Embrace the small steps, the regular practice.
And he actually compares it to training for a marathon.
Oh, I like that analogy.
You wouldn't, try to run 26 miles on your first day.
No way. You'd be in trouble.
You would. So Jones suggests, incorporating language learning into your daily routine.
Make it a habit.
Yeah, even if it's just for a short burst of time.
15 minutes here, 20 minutes there.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And it's so much less intimidating, than thinking about, oh, I got to study for like 2 hours tonight.
It's manageable.
It is. And it brings us back to his point about active learning.
Oh, yeah.
He makes this great analogy. He's like, imagine rereading and highlighting a textbook over and over
Okay, I've been there.
versus actually trying to, generate sentences and use the language actively.
So it's like the difference between watching a cooking show and actually getting in the kitchen and cooking something.
Exactly. You might learn a few things from watching, but the real learning happens when you're, doing it yourself.
Making mistakes, getting your hands dirty.
And Jones is all about that.
Yeah.
He wants us to, apply what we've learned, test ourselves, push our boundaries a bit.
So how do we do that?
Well, he's a big fan of spaced repetition and active recall, which we talked about earlier.
Right, so you're revisiting the material at those increasing intervals.
Yeah. He even talks about how he uses it with vocabulary. Like he'll
Yeah.
write down new words,
Mm-hmm.
test himself, and then review them at gradually longer intervals.
So it's like building muscle memory for your brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the more we use those language skills, the stronger they become.
I like that.
But Jones doesn't stop there. He wants us to tap into the power of our emotions, too.
Oh, yeah. This is where the mnemonics come in.
Exactly.
I have to admit, I'm starting to see the appeal.
Me too. It's not just about finding a silly rhyme or image. It's about creating a strong emotional connection with the word.
And our brains are wired to remember things that are tied to emotion.
So if you're struggling to remember a new word, try, picturing something funny or telling yourself a story about it.
Give it some emotional weight.
Exactly. You might be surprised how much easier it is to recall.
It's like hacking your memory.
In a way it is, but, all of this talk about techniques and strategies, it makes you wonder, okay, what are the best tools to actually put this into practice?
Right. Where do we start?
Well, thankfully, Jonas doesn't get caught up in recommending specific apps or programs.
I appreciate that. He's more about empowering the learner.
Yeah. He's like, the best resource is the one that fits your individual style, your goals, your preferences.
So do your research experiment find what works for you?
He does mention some popular options. Duolingo, Rosetta Stone, Italki.
Those are the big names.
But his main message is experiment and see what clicks.
And I think the key is finding resources that expose you to authentic language use.
That's huge for Jones. He's all about immersing yourself in the language through real-world content.
Movies, music podcasts, even YouTube videos like his own.
And speaking of YouTube videos...
Yeah, this is where Lang Magic comes in.
It does. It's a platform that really embodies Jones's philosophy of learning through real content.
So how does it work?
Well, imagine you're watching Jones's video, right?
No.
And you come across a word you don't know. You have Lang Magic, you can pause the video, look up the word, create a flashcard right there.
Wow. So you're not interrupting the flow of your learning.
Exactly. You're staying engaged with the content.
That's brilliant.
It is. And it really aligns with Jones's whole approach,
So it's about making the learning process as seamless as possible.
and as enjoyable as possible.
Because let's be honest, if it's not fun, we're not going to stick with it.
We're not.
Yeah.
And Jones really emphasizes that he wants us to find joy in the process of learning a language.
Yeah, it's so important.
It is. He's all about celebrating those small victories along the way.
Recognizing that every step forward, no matter how small, is still a step in the right direction.
Exactly. And, even though we're focusing on Jones's ideas, I think it's worth mentioning that he's very open about his own struggles, too.
Oh, yeah. He's not afraid to admit that he's made mistakes.
He's human, just like us.
Exactly. And I think that makes his advice even more relatable.
I agree. It's like he's saying, hey, this is a journey. We're all in this together.
And the key is to just keep going.
Keep learning, keep exploring, keep pushing ourselves.
I love that.
Me too. And on that note, Jones also encourages us to think about our language goals in a more, tangible and relatable way.
So not just this vague idea of fluency.
Right. He's like, set specific achievable goals that align with your personal interests.
Like his example of wanting to order a croissant in Paris.
It's exactly. It's about making language learning more meaningful, more concrete, and ultimately more achievable.
And more enjoyable, I
It
think.
should be. It really should be. All right, so we're back. And, as we wrap up this deep dive into Jones's approach, I want to highlight something he's clearly passionate about,
Oh, yeah. What's that?
making language learning accessible for everyone.
Yes, he talks a lot about neurodiversity in the video.
He does.
Yeah.
And he offers some really specific advice for learners with, ADHD and autism.
I think that's so important, recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. So for folks with ADHD, he really stresses building in what he calls these dopamine hits.
Dopamine hits.
Yeah, to keep you focused and motivated.
Yeah.
Like incorporating game-like elements or rewards.
Oh, that's interesting.
And he also recognizes the challenge of consistency, for people with ADHD.
Right.
So he recommends like enlisting a friend or a family member, to provide some structure and accountability.
That makes sense. Having that support system can make a big difference.
It can.
Hmm.
And then for learners on the autism spectrum, he talks about the power of hyperfocus,
Oh, yeah.
which can be a huge advantage for, mastering grammar rules or memorizing vocabulary.
Absolutely. But he does caution against solely focusing on those technical aspects.
Right. Because effective communication goes beyond just, knowing the rules.
It's about understanding social and cultural nuances, too.
And that can be tricky for individuals on the spectrum.
It can.
He even gives this example about how compliments are perceived differently across cultures.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like what might be considered polite in one culture could be seen as, boastful or insincere in another.
It's a good reminder that language is about so much more than just words.
It is. It reflects deeper cultural values.
Absolutely.
So whether you're neurotypical or neurodivergent, Jones's message is clear. Embrace your unique learning style.
Find what works for you.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment. Seek out resources and support systems that fit your needs.
I love that. And he kind of brings this full circle by talking about fluency again.
He does. He challenges this idea of fluency as, this elusive, perfect state.
Which it's not.
It's not. It's a journey.
A continuous process.
Exactly. And he encourages us to move away from that, all or nothing mentality.
So instead of aiming for this vague idea of fluency, what should we be doing?
Set specific, achievable goals that align with our personal motivations.
Like his example of ordering a croissant in Paris.
Exactly. Make it relatable. Make it tangible.
And celebrate those small victories along the way.
Because every step forward, no matter how small it is,
Yeah.
a step closer to our goals.
It is. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's worth reiterating that Jones's message is ultimately one of hope and encouragement.
It is. He reminds us that language learning is a journey, not a destination.
There will be challenges and setbacks.
Of course.
Yeah.
But the rewards are immense.
They are.
Yeah.
Connecting with other cultures, broadening our perspectives, enriching our lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. So as Dr. Jones would say, instead of aiming for this vague notion of fluency, set a specific goal. Like, I want to order coffee in Italian, or I want to understand a Spanish news article.
Find what motivates you.
Embrace your unique learning style.
And most importantly, enjoy the journey.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So it's been fantastic exploring these ideas with you.
It has. Thanks for having me.
And to all of you listening out there, if you're looking for a tool that combines engaging content with, powerful learning features, be sure to check out LangMagic.
You can even use it to watch Dr. Jones's videos. Turn that passive viewing into an active learning experience.
Exactly. All right, well, until next time, happy language learning, everyone.